Hey, I finally found out what was wrong with my audio in the last few episodes. Apparently I had my gain turned up too much. And speaking of people who have audio issues...
And I think everybody should hear it, as far as how much these rich, prominent figures fear death.
That's right, we're tackling Call for an Uprising again. And yes, if you're a Call fan and you've given me the comment that I edited his audio to make him sound more echoey, you're fooling yourself more than Call is fooling himself. So, let's get right into it. Alrighty, welcome back to my channel, everybody. If you're new here, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoyed what you see. You can also hit the bell notification icon if you want to see episodes when they come out, but if you want to see them early, then early access is always granted to patrons. And with that said, let's go ahead and slide right on into the fan art section. First, we have a Dragon Suris by a Little Rabbit, an Invader Zim Suris by MJ Sketchy, and My Emotions Whenever I Watch Call for an Uprising by Plainly Colorful. And with that out of the way, there's an interview that Call for an Uprising wanted us to watch. So let's do that.
Are you afraid of death? Are you afraid?
No, I'm not afraid of death.
I'm
just pissed off about it.
Yes.
Because, I mean, especially I think when you have a life like we have,
yes,
and then one day it's over, I mean, that really pisses me off.
That
we go 6 feet under.
That's
and
it?
we're going to rot there. Yes, absolutely. That's it.
I thought you were told me to be uplifting
No,
today.
but this is upsetting, and I cannot stand it.
Are you angry about it?
I'm so angry about it.
Me too.
I'm furious about it.
Me too.
I'm telling you.
Can't we do something?
No, but that's why you and I are so much alike.
I know.
Because we want to be the only ones that will live forever.
So about the only thing that I don't like in that interview was him saying that we'll be the only ones that'll live forever. Personally, I think that death is one of those things that if you can avoid, you might as well do so. But what does Call think about that?
Now, why do you think this is? Is it because, people like me who don't fear death, we welcome it?
There are some very dark jokes that come to mind. I will avoid them, but I will think them.
Because we know what is to come after, because we are saved and we have salvation. These people fear death and try to fight death because they know what's coming to them.
No. People fear death because death, like anything else, is change. Whether it's change in the sense that you'll be transported into a new type of living, heaven or any other afterlife you may be able to think up, or change in the sense that you were once alive and now you're not. At the end of the day, that type of change is something that people fear, and fear of change is literally what makes most conservatives conservative. That isn't to say they're the only people that fear death. If you've ever had a family member die, then you know the pain associated with death, even if you weren't the one who actually died. Moreover, most of your base instincts are there so that you can avoid death. Why don't you run into traffic? To avoid death. Why don't you jump off of a 15-story building? Well, to avoid death. You're literally programmed to avoid dying. That isn't to say there are exceptions to that rule, but as a baseline, we try to avoid death. This is quite literally one of the base instincts of human beings, or really of any animal. So, why is it that someone would want to avoid death? Probably because they exist.
They've been promised things here on earth and given those things here on earth. And they believe so much so that through transhumanism and through the advancements and enhancements in technology, that they're going to be able to fight off death, that they're not going to ever have to deal with the afterlife. But little do they know, they're going to no matter what.
So the fact that for the last 100 years we've actually been extending the average human lifespan pretty significantly is at least evidence that we could extend it further. We don't understand everything there is to know about why humans age in the way they do, but there are some ideas that have been floating around, such as the fact that telomeres get smaller every single time that you create new cells, till eventually there's not a lot of data for your cells to reproduce from, and thus they start creating faulty cells. If we could find a way to extend or prolong the life of telomeres, or even replace them within our own body, then it's reasonable to think that this is something that could potentially halt the aging process, or at the very least slow it down. But even that may end up leading to more issues later on down the road. We don't know. People don't do this so that they can avoid an afterlife. The only people who are scared of an afterlife are people who've been told by people like you that they're going to burn in hell forever. Some people, whether or not they believe it, still take the inherent threat to heart. But at the end of the day, technology, as it is, has been improving the human lifespan.
Because they want to turn into robots and they want to turn into half human, the new species of transhumanism, whatever you want to call it.
The word you're fishing for is cyborg. A human would not be able to become a robot. If there are any human parts involved whatsoever, then this would just be a cyborg. Even so, if someone were to become a robot, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're now immortal. Technology still gets viruses, though of course of a different form. And if you've ever had any piece of technology, you know that it ages.
The trumpets are still going to sound. The king is still going to return, and judgment is going to happen.
Yeah, you've been waiting on that for how many thousand years? I'm willing to bet a few thousand more won't hurt, right?
Whether they're half human and half robot or not. But there's a reason that all of these celebrities, there's so many songs about death and outliving death, so many song lyrics about living forever, right? Oh, I want to live forever, like Forever Young, all these songs.
Is it potentially the fact that human beings like to avoid death because it's a baseline human emotion, and that all human beings at some point experience death, whether it be from themselves or from a family member, therefore it's something that literally everyone can empathize with, except apparently you?
They want a society that wants to live forever. Self-pride.
Ah, yes, because not wanting to die is a form of pride. I forgot. I'll just go ahead and throw myself in front of a bus right now. That way, I can at least say that I'm humbled.
Right? That's a lot of the stuff that we see. And you see and hear, even, talking about the Egyptian days. Because why would they want to give up their power? Why would they want to give up all the things that they have here on Earth, the treasures that they've stored? They don't want to give them up because they know what they're facing in the afterlife, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah, that's most certainly not the case. So in Call's original video, he actually included a clip that I really didn't feel like playing from a futurologist talking about the Egyptians' beliefs. If you really desperately want to see that clip as well, then by all means a link will be in the description. Anywho, the Egyptians didn't fear death, not any more so than any other human being. They had pyramids set up so that when they died, they would have their treasures transferred into the afterlife. They very much believed in an afterlife just like you. They just believed it was a different one than you have. The idea that they didn't want to burn in hell wasn't something in their belief structure in the same way it is in the Christian one. You see, in the Egyptian mythos, Anubis would weigh your soul against a feather, and if your soul weighed less than that feather, so you didn't have as many crimes burdened on your soul, then you got to go into an afterlife, at least a more pleasant one than would be had in store for you otherwise. This is somewhat similar to the Christian version of heaven and hell, but it is still different. So the idea that Egyptian kings wanted to be buried with their treasures so that they could live forever is a preposterous one. Egyptians knew death was coming. There was no way to really avoid it. But they, not unlike Christians, had a set of beliefs that included the afterlife. They weren't worried about burning in your hell. Your hell wasn't part of their beliefs. And besides, there really is no difference between wanting to avoid burning so you get saved and wanting to avoid burning so you want to be immortal. In both situations, you're avoiding being burned.
A life without involuntary death is a core belief in the transhumanist search for the future human. But as well as changing how our cells work, how else may we achieve this? Let's take a look at a few of the ideas proposed. First up, mind uploading, also called whole brain emulation.
The mind is a pattern of organization rather than a specific collection of meat, of physical matter.
This is the rather incredible idea that we can take an exact copy of our brains and place it on something like a hard drive. In this matrix-like existence, we would live in the silicon, or in other words, servers, and our new brains could be copied numerous times. So there could be many versions of ourselves theoretically placed in any type of body.
It's not far-fetched to actually have that happen with our minds and have a way to download our mind into something that is like this.
So I am including this clip from Call to an Uprising's video, specifically because there's an issue that I want to address in here, and it's that of mind uploading. As fantastical of an idea as it is, if you've ever worked with data, you can already see some of the problems that come up with it. Where data is concerned, when you are downloading something, which is the terminology that they used, you are creating a copy of it. This means that you, as an individual, if you died, a copy of your brain would be somewhere, but that doesn't mean that you would still be alive. It's like if a version of you existed in a parallel dimension. Or even more accurately, if a clone of you existed that had every single life experience you did and made every single decision you did up until the point where you died. That clone is still a different person. They're not you. Just as having two leaves that are genetic copies of one another doesn't make them them the same leaf. They are still different leaves. Uploading something onto the internet doesn't transfer it from one area to another. It simply gives instructions to rewrite the data elsewhere. For instance, if I upload a video to YouTube, the original still exists on my hard drive. The uploaded version of the brain would be no different than the YouTube video you're watching right now, whereas the original it was uploaded from is no different than the original sitting on my hard drive. It makes no difference to you if I delete the original on my hard drive, because you still get to see the copy on YouTube. However, in this instance, the original is still destroyed, meaning that even if you were to do mind uploading in the way they're describing here, from what I can tell, you as an individual, you as a person, would still be dead. The only way that you would be able to make this work is by moving the hardware as well. You would have to move the physical brain that houses all of these things. Any type of uploading would simply be creating a copy of it, in which case, if your efforts are that of self-preservation, then all of these endeavors are a moot point.
But there's already work going on to map the entire brain. And as we learn more, some scientists think it may be possible to replicate the content of our brains to create consciousness in a computer-like device. This takes us on to our next topic of discussion. Many transhumanists believe in the idea of the three supers:
super longevity, super intelligence, and super well-being.
In other words, being superhuman.
Humans and technology merging together. So as far as transhumanism is concerned, it's upgrading humans by linking with technology.
Now see, this particular concept is a little different than uploading your brain. With those three supers, the idea is to instead enhance human beings from what they already are. This is just a logical extension of what we already have with medicine, availability of information, and healthcare. Medicine and healthcare both help with the well-being and longevity of the human race, whereas the current access to information has gone a long way into helping people become more intelligent. It is much easier in the modern era to become an autodidact, or somebody who's self-taught in any particular field. There's actually an interesting book about this topic called Devil on My Back. It's an older one, but it's still good. It's about a society of people who have the concept of being burdened with knowledge. They have essentially plugs grafted onto their back, and instead of being taught individual things as they get older, they're given chips onto their back that give them access to information from a main server. The older they are, the more information they are granted. And unfortunately, as people get older in this society, they become more and more jaded, because that's literally the weight of knowledge. The book creates a physical representation of a standard metaphor. Anywho, continuing on.
And that's why I think, let each person be able to choose. If they want to keep on living, then that's their right.
And I agree with that. There's also about another 2 minutes that I cut out of there, mainly because I'm here to respond to a call for an uprising, and he shows about 3.5 minutes of clips with no commentary or anything. If you want the full context, video's in the description. Otherwise, let's see what he has to say.
But there is no escape from death. There is no escape from the judgment that is to come, whether these celebrities want to believe it or not.
So, wait, hold on a second. There is no escape from death, which is currently true, though there's nothing wrong with attempting to avoid death. Like, seriously, if you don't think there's something wrong with attempting to avoid death, then insert dark joke here that would get me immediately demonetized. But the point is, you've said that these celebrities are attempting to avoid judgment, and yet you're saying that it will happen whether they believe it or not. But if they don't believe in your God, then they wouldn't be believing that they're trying to avoid any particular type of judgment, now would they? Your claim is that they're attempting to avoid the eternal hellfire that will come for them when the judgment comes, and that judgment comes when they are, dead. And yet here you claim that it will happen whether they believe it or not, meaning that you understand that there are some of them who don't believe this. So if somebody doesn't believe in your God, and thus doesn't believe in your hell, how are they possibly attempting to avoid your hell? A hell that they don't believe in.
But I don't blame them for being afraid and angry at it. But they're the ones who made the decision not to choose salvation through Jesus Christ. They're the ones who made the decision to lie in bed with the devil.
But again, you pointed out that some of them simply don't believe, and believing isn't a choice. If you think beliefs are a choice, then please, right now, believe Australia doesn't exist. Hopefully that means all the flat earthers will suddenly unsubscribe. But in all seriousness, we don't really get to choose our beliefs, so if we can't choose our beliefs, and don't believe in your God, then it would appear to me that this isn't an active choice for anyone. I can't choose to be a Christian right now. I can go through the motions, but I can't make myself believe in your God, nor, logically, can anyone else.
And they're gonna pay for those decisions unless they repent from their sin, repent from their ways, and accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior.
Yes, we've heard it all before. For God so loved the world very much, he threatened everybody with eternal torture and burning them to death. Have you ever considered that in this way, God is just an abusive father? And the only real argument I've ever heard in this situation is that, well, he's got enough power to do that, so it's his right. Which is an argument that if you extend it to its logical extreme, means that might makes right in all scenarios. Which means that if somebody is stronger than you, and they punch you in the face, it was within their right to do it because they're more powerful than you. If somebody comes into your house and kills everyone in their house, well, they were more powerful than the people in that house. It was well within their rights to do so because they had the power at the time. Except any sane person wouldn't make this might makes right argument. So in order to make this argument specifically for God, you have to engage in special pleading, which is a wonderful fallacy that you really shouldn't be falling into. It sounds more like you're afraid that you personally don't have a lot of power to do anything in this world, and so you hide behind God because he gives you the idea that you are at least on the side of something that can have the power to change the world. Or, more accurately, prevent it from changing. Because every video I've seen on your channel, Call, seems to basically be saying that the world is changing around you, and that terrifies you. It scares you. It gets under your skin. Social progress is your kryptonite. And so you have to threaten 400,000 people and more, your subscribers and your viewers, into believing exactly as you do. Otherwise, the gates of hell open and it's time for God's barbecue.
I thank you for listening to today's show. Remember, there's no escaping death.
But there is escaping you, which I'm gonna do right now. Alright, so what did we learn from this video? Well, apparently people wanting to... what was that? Hold on, let me look through my notes. Oh yeah, stay alive gets under a Call for an Uprising skin. People wanting to do the baseline thing that humans want, living, upsets him. Oh boy. Anyway, before I do another video on Call for an Uprising, I'm probably going to do a video responding to the comments that have come from his fans. Because, I'll be honest, that's a whole nother can of worms and a whole nother world in and of itself. But with that said, I've made my thoughts pretty clear throughout this episode itself. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, share it with your friends, and if you hated the video, then share it with your enemies. I'm sure you have excuses to make them suffer as well. If you enjoy my work, please feel free to support me on Patreon. It gives you access to videos early, as well as special roles and channels in my Discord server. If you want to support me otherwise, the merch store is available. Christmas time is coming around, so why not have a cat girl on your chest? Remember that I'm also affiliated with DGLG Playground, so if you're a friend of the channel and want to support me, then please use coupon code Suris to get 10% off and get some toys to go pleasure yourself. But if you hate me, then use the coupon code anyway, because at least then I'm giving you a discount, and you can get a toy to go screw yourself. As always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.